Senator Gallego.
Well, in the spirit of Senator King, I was actually trying to write a haiku, but I only got to couldn't get to the last line. I'll have to submit it for the record once I get there. But in the other area where Senator King was talking about, one of the programs that has been identified, something that's very personal to me, is the National Center for PTSD, which is a world-leading research and education center on post-traumatic stress disorder. For us that have PTSD, this is extremely important because we know that it's an evolving field of research that could also be helped, not just us, but also end up saving us money in the long run if we can find better treatments for PTSD that are more effective, quicker, and also in some regards cheaper. But that was one of the contracts that was just terminated recently. And this is really to Mr. Montoya. The VA said that the terminations will not negatively affect veteran care benefits or services, and that they were identified through a deliberative, multi-level review. However, I am really concerned that these terminations will negatively impact veterans' care, specifically something like this. So can you explain what safeguards you have in place to make sure this won't happen, and how you restore contracts that were incorrectly terminated? Because in my opinion, if it was identified through deliberative multi-level review, I have no idea how someone look at the National Center for PTSD, which other countries actually talk and try to get research from to help their veterans, how that came under the purview of being cut.
Sure. Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I think this is one that's near and dear to my heart, as I was up in Vermont, and they do have the National Center for PTSD, and I think there's a very deliberate process in looking at the contract review to make sure that there isn't any ill will that occurs to our veterans. There is also a process for us to reverse those, as have been done in many, many cases. And so I'd be happy to look at that particular contract that you're asking about and see what it entails.
And then another contract that was listed for cancellation was the VA's PACT Act Enterprise Management Office, which supports the VA ability to carry out the benefits and health care delivery promised under the bipartisan PACT Act. Again, something very personal to me. I lived next to a burn pit for almost a month. The men that I served with, some of them have died, unfortunately, from toxic exposure, some of them from very rare cancers at young ages. So I'm very concerned that some of these reductions, while we're trying to finally help these men and women, are actually going to be impacted, and actually we're going to be sliding backwards. And since the bill was signed into law, nearly 60,000 veterans in Arizona have filed claims. Can you, Mr. Engelbaum, can you please explain how the cancellation of this contract won't impact those benefits who qualify for the PACT Act benefits and health care? And there's still more men and women that are actually jumping on to this because we want them to actually get their services and disability ratings because of the PACT Act.
Yeah, Senator, unfortunately, I can't address that specific contract. Happy to take that back. As just stated, one of the things was, it's not that we would stop doing something. So I don't know, for example, the analysis would be is, do we have a contractor doing something for us that we could do internally? There's different things that went into, I think, some of the deliberations. But notwithstanding, as mentioned, we're committed to taking care of our veterans. If we didn't get it right, we will definitely take a relook at it, and we'll have the focus on our veteran.
Yeah, and I mean, my concern again is that we are treating, I think, the VA much like we treat other parts of the government, where there needs to be certain sensitivities. Right now, I'm hearing reports of men and women having to do their treatments and their PTSD therapy in cubicles, open-air cubicles, where essentially some of the therapists are told to get white noise and put ambient music in the background, while obviously next door someone could be listening to these veterans going through the therapy session. As someone who has done PTSD therapy, you have to expose yourself. You have to really let yourself go, and in order for you to start real therapy, it's not going to be a really good environment when these men and women feel like they're not going to have a safe and secure environment to actually talk about what happened to them, what they're feeling, everything else like that, if they're being forced to speak in this open air cubicle. And this is part of the problem when you force people back to the office, but there's not enough space for these men. Do you understand, or have you heard of this problem? Because I am actually hearing about this across the country now.
Senator, if there are any specific issues, happy to look at them. Okay. As far as our veterans care. As far as back to the office, we do have a detailed plan in place. We are making sure, so for example, that there are extensions right now, pretty much unquestioned if people don't have the space to put people back. What we do know is that our clinical providers have been showing up day in and day out for years. But mostly the support staff, the administration, they haven't been. right? There are some jobs that lend themselves to actually being remote or working things, and we can better support, but the vast majority, we work better together. We work better together, we collaborate, we're part of a team, you develop a spree, just like in the Army or wherever you're at, you're part of something, you're part of a mission. So we firmly believe that we are more effective, more efficient, and better, for the most part, when we work together and we call people back in. Like I said, our providers are there on the front lines every day. We owe it to them to be there to support them as well.
Without a doubt, I just worry about the situation where you're putting some of these men and women in a compromised situation because we're trying to overall create a policy that might have some merit to it, but then is creating this system where, again, it's not conducive to PTSD therapy.
We will definitely take that into consideration, Senator. Thank you.
Yield back, Chairman.